I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time.
Hello and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James, and I get the honor, the privilege of introducing you to powerful women, extraordinary women, women who are way showers, who absolutely model for us possibility and potentiality. They say to us, hey, stand in your power, bring your voice, do what you love and love what you do. So that's why I bring them. And I'm so excited. We do this every week. And so you get to come back and meet a new woman. We're on all the platforms, Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Amazon, Spreaker, and we're on YouTube video. So please come back, meet a new woman and learn from them, take their tips and their tools, buy their books, and let's support each other. So you can also go to cynthiajames.net. That's my website. I just got a new one, by the way. You can see it and see what I've got there and get some gifts and join my newsletter. So today I'm meeting a new friend and I am so excited about this topic. Her name is Star Hansen. She's a certified professional organizer and clutter whisperer. She's on a mission to help us manage our personal clutter monster, take control of our stuff, and create a life that we're really proud of. Star looks at the deeper meaning of your stuff to help you figure out why you feel overwhelmed by your clutter in the first place. Listen to this. She has appeared on over 30 TV shows, given a TEDx talk, and shared her fitted sheet folding secrets with Oprah and her fans. Her unique methodology has helped thousands of people get and stay organized when nothing else worked. Well, Star, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here with you, Cynthia.
Well, I'm happy to meet you and be in your presence and also to talk about this topic. But I want to start with, where were you born? How did you grow up? You probably didn't grow up being a clutter whisperer.
No, I grew up on like a ranch in Tucson, Arizona. I was an original cowgirl back in the day.
Big family?
Yeah, big extended family. I have an older brother, a younger sister, but a huge extended and very close extended family. And we're one of the original homesteading families in Tucson. So we're like old school cowboys. We are at least 8 generations deep there. And so what was really cool is that I got to grow up around all these wild animals and, with this freedom that I think a lot of people don't experience these days. And I don't know, there was just something so creative about living even though the desert is incredibly hot, we had so much freedom to be outside and play and explore. And I think that shapes you. And then also the kind of responsibility and the work ethic that comes from having to take care of other beings than yourself, through all these animals. I still don't have a pet as an adult. I'm like, I think I did my service as a child. I'm good. If I don't have to clean out a horse stable or get up at 4 to feed, a bale of hay, I'm okay. I'm all right with that.
Listen, we have horses on our property and my husband is the mucker and the feeder and all that, and I'm like, pet the horses, give them carrots. I'm like, but we've got dogs too. So I hear you. It's a responsibility. It's like you take on another family member when you take on a pet.
You do. And it was so beautiful to be raised in that world and just to look into the eyes of animals so often and see the depth of their soul and just how smart they are. It's just magical.
It totally is. And they communicate, they reflect back to you your energy. So it's a very amazing thing. All right. I want to know how you got into this whole arena of clutter. Because it's a big issue. It's a big issue.
So I happened upon this. So to me, I feel like when something is meant for you, it will find you, even if you don't know that you're looking for it. At the time I was living in Los Angeles and I was an actor, and I was doing the thing I had said for years I wanted to do, but I was feeling so dissatisfied. I mean, I was booking movies and commercials and did not like it. And so my soul started asking for something deeper, and it kept saying, like, what is my calling? What is my calling? And the only thing I heard was, you're a healer. And
Mm,
and it was funny because there was this assignment given in class. I went to this wonderful acting school that made sure that we knew how to get a job, not just be an actor. And
mhm.
I love that. And so they said, come up with 50 ways, creative ways that you could provide for yourself financially that don't have anything to do with working a day job. And one of the things that I did is I created this tax receipt box. So I basically went and got this like accordion box and filled it with different envelopes. And I was like, great. So actors who don't tend to be all that great with their finances necessarily can like just shove receipts in the different categorized envelopes throughout the year, hand that box to their accountant, and voila, their time is done. And I sold like 2 boxes, but I but I got clients from it, and I didn't even know what at the time, this was the early 2000s, organizing wasn't as mainstream as it is today. So I didn't even know this was a thing. But once I started doing it, it just made sense. I thought, wow, I get to be a healer. It uses the logical side of my brain, but also the spiritual side of me. And it was just a natural fit. And I mean, that was 20 years ago, and I haven't looked back once. It's just been a wonderful flow into my soul's journey with this career path.
Well, that's beautiful. So, is decluttering spiritual?
Oh, hugely, hugely. When I first started my business, I was known as the spiritual organizer. And I think Clutter Whisperer feels like a little softer. It doesn't, I
Mm,
don't want to scare people off, but I find that all clutter is talking to us. It's us talking to ourselves through our physical objects. And that can be scary because the first voice in our head that a lot of us have is, I'm lazy. I just can't get it together. What's wrong with me? But that's not true. Like, the higher truth is that our clutter is talking to us and it's offering us a gift. And if we can start to look at our clutter with curiosity and not judgment, we can see that gift. And then once you get that gift, the clutter is not needed anymore. And that's the brilliance of shifting your focus on clutter, and stop, to stop seeing it as the problem and start to see it as the gift, the solution,
mhm.
your gateway to the next level of your life and yourself.
Yeah, well, that makes total sense to me. You know, I'm a baby boomer, and so we come from that generation that hoarded everything because they were gonna, like, they didn't know when the next war was coming or whatever. And
Yes.
then they passed it on to the rest of us, you know,
Yes.
and then trying to get past it. So what's the power in decluttering? I mean,
Mm.
releasing all that chaos.
Yeah, so it's discovering, it's excavating your greatest potential. Your highest self is laying in there. So if you have clutter, and I don't mean one-time clutter, right? If you randomly, you just got busy, the kitchen counter gets covered with stuff, you clean it up in an hour and it's gone and it doesn't come back. That's not the clutter I'm talking about.
Mm,
I'm talking about the clutter that recurs, that comes back over and over again, no matter how many times you try to get a handle on it. That's the clutter that's doing something really interesting for us. And so what we want to do is we want to just start looking at the ways that it might be helping us, because I've never seen recurring clutter not benefiting us in some way. And
mm,
that can be strange for people to wrap their head around, but think about it. So sometimes you might be using your clutter to communicate, right? For some of us, we don't feel as it doesn't feel as easy to use our words. We might, kind of try to tell our spouse what we need by like leaving something out that we want them to fix over and over again. That's kind of like a silent, like, hey, get it together. We might be using it as a protection. Like, I've had
mhm,
clients who had break-ins, and the clutter makes them feel safe because if, God forbid, they had another break-in, people couldn't find their valuables mixed in clutter. I've seen people who grew up in severe lack, and they didn't have food growing up. And so they might tend to hoard, items in their pantry. You see this a lot with people who survived the Great Depression. And
yeah.
a lot of boomers like yourself, right? You were raised by people who had survived the Great Depression. So what you keep, how you keep it, what happens if you get rid of it changes a lot when you've gone through a trauma like that. I've seen clients who hold on to 200 pairs of blue jeans because growing up they only had one pair of blue jeans. And so
Mhm.
it's really interesting to start to explore the way clutter helps us. And it's fascinating to think about it in a softer, more gentle term, because yeah, if you didn't have your needs met growing up, getting your needs met as an adult, even if it's gone too far, can feel very healing. And
Mm.
what we want to do is take the healing and then release ourselves from the excess that is actually causing the harm and making us feel overwhelmed and stressed out.
100%. So my mother was a hoarder, and my brother and I went in and cleared everything up and put stuff in boxes and put it, put stuff away. And little by little, she kept asking for different boxes to come back because that was what was comfortable. So what is shame-free decluttering?
Yeah. So shame-free decluttering is the idea that, you don't have a problem, right? What if your clutter is not a problem? And there's been scientific evidence linked to this, that it's clutter only creates anxiety, depression, and kind of all the pain points if we perceive that it's negative. So if you look at your clutter and you perceive that it's negative, you're receiving all those painful challenges that come with feeling like our clutter is a problem. Now, if you look at it and you're curious and interested and it's like an adventure, it shifts that for you, right? It changes it to be something that's like opening your synapses and shifting how you engage. And so it really is like a mind game that we have to play with ourselves and start to look at it again with curiosity, not judgment. So oftentimes the shame is not our own, right?
Mm,
If I dig into someone's clutter and they tell me that they have shame around it, almost always it was something that was handed to them by a parent, by a loved one, by a friend, by society at large, who's actively saying clutter is bad, clutter is bad. But what if clutter is not bad? What if clutter is helping you survive? What if clutter is making sure your needs are met? What if clutter is helping you be more effective and or teaching you something? And again, the truth is that once we can start to look at our clutter with new eyes, we can see that gift. And once you see that gift, Cynthia, that's when the clutter will go away. Now, and this is what I tell people, when you don't know why your clutter's there, it's going to keep showing up. I don't care how
mhm.
many bins you buy, organizing shows you watch, books you read, right? Like until you see the truth, nothing's going to work. And once you see the truth, anything will work. Any of those philosophies are going to work for you because you will have addressed the thing that's been holding the clutter in place.
Well, that's incredible. Okay. Did you ever have clutter?
I have clutter that will pop up from time to time, and it's fascinating. So growing up, no, although I did have a friend who's like, it's interesting you chose that because I remember you had a very messy bedroom. And I was like, please remember I also had a very messy sister that I shared that room with. So like, yes, understood. But yeah, so I will have clutter that pops up from time to time. Sometimes it's circumstantial. I always say there's two types of clutter, right? There's practical clutter and activated clutter. So practical clutter is like life just got away from you. So recently I switched my bedroom and my office and had like someone help me move them from one room to another. Now, because this person didn't have a lot of extra time, it was like a mover that I hired and they just dumped all my office stuff into the closet. And I'm looking at it. I was so busy for 2 months. And of course, if it's not organized, I mean, and everything's in bins and stuff, but I couldn't access anything. And it just became a monstrous situation. So last weekend, I sat down, I organized everything, took 9 hours, got it in shape. That closet can't get cluttered now, right? So that's practical clutter. We just need the time or energy to deal with it. Now, activated clutter is different. That's where we've got those emotional triggers, that kind of like volatility that pops up inside of ourselves. And this is when something bigger is going on. This is the recurring clutter. Every now and then I'll have something like that come up, but it's rare. It's normally when I receive possessions that I don't know what to do with. Like I remember
Mm,
during COVID when I had no income, getting like a $3,000 medical bill because it was billed incorrectly through my insurance. And I didn't know how to manage that. And so my inbox became a paper pile because I just couldn't mentally cope with it. And I track that. So for me, because I do this for a living, when those little things pop up, I get what they're doing. I'll call a
mm,
friend and say, can you help me with this? Because the number one thing when you have shame around your stuff is to get support. Like Brene Brown says, the antidote to shame is, not perfectionism. It's actually being in community. It's connection. And so
yes.
it's the first thing I do is I'll call somebody and say, hey, I am really terrified. I don't know how to pay this bill. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to get the insurance to bill it right. I don't even want to open my mail right now. Help. Right. And
Mhm.
just being heard and having someone say, it's COVID. Everybody knows that that's what's happening. Just call them. I'll sit on the phone with you. Like suddenly I was like, oh, and the pile went away because I addressed the root cause.
Well, I love what you're saying. Community is a healing salve,
Mm,
and,
totally.
you need people to lean into sometimes when you can't. But what I also am impressed by is that you're human and stuff happens. And the pandemic for all of us was striking. I mean, a lot of people got piles. A lot of people felt like not safe, and so they were protecting themselves. And so that was, it was huge. So can you give us a couple of tips? Let's say you got a lot of clutter and you don't even know where to start. What
Yes.
what can we do?
Yeah. So getting started is like a huge issue, right? It's like we get so overwhelmed and we get stuck. So there's actually, I have a gift for your listeners that they can get at my, I have a page that I've set up so that your listeners can grab this. But if they go to starhansen.com/podcast, and it's spelled Hansen,
Mhm.
I have a quiz that you can take to find out the number one clutter monster that's stopping you from getting started. Because
Yay.
it's so common. Like when we get paralyzed with fear, when we're overwhelmed, it's so hard to make decisions, and we will do anything to avoid that pain. And so they can go on there and take that quiz and find out exactly what it is. But so one of the biggest things that I can tell people is start with something easy. Start with something that looks fun. Go to an area of your home that's cluttered and pick the easiest thing to do and make it small. Try to do it in 20 minutes or less. If you are really overwhelmed, organize for one song. Put on your favorite song and organize for one song, right? We have this perception that we have to organize the entire worst room in our life right now. Like, oh, my house is such a mess. And yet you wouldn't ask a toddler to run a marathon. No, most of us were not taught how to get organized, right? So this is a skill that we are having to learn. And it's also something that it's like a bicep curl. You're not just going to go and start lifting a truck, right? You're going to like just start with your own body weight, and then you're going to add 2 pounds and then 5 pounds. And that's what we want to do, is we want to work in small zones, get comfortable, and in small increments that don't flood you. Because again, so for some of you, you have a lot of shame around whether or not you are even capable of getting organized. A lot of people have the internal voice that says, I'm just disorganized. I'm never going to get it together. No one ever taught me. This is not going to happen. So we need to start saying to that voice in your head, thank you for trying to protect us, but that's not the highest truth. The highest truth is, this is a new skill I just need to refine. And you refine it at 5 minutes at a time, 20 minutes at a time, doing something that is the easiest. Please, for the love of all that is holy, do not start with paperwork or memorabilia. Please avoid those two like the plague. Those are the most, you get the least bang for your buck. They're the most emotional. They take the longest to go through. So start with like your junk drawer underneath
Mm.
your, do your purse underneath your sink, do a cabinet in the kitchen or the bathroom. Don't start with these intensely overwhelming things, because you need to work up to that. A lot of us have had so many failures when it comes to getting organized that we expect the failure, right? So we need to give ourselves some wins. So start with some wins, start with things that are small that you can get done in 40 minutes or less, that aren't going to take over your whole house, because you're having to rewire your brain to learn how to complete things. And it's such a healing experience to do that.
Yeah. Um, okay, ladies, I hope you were writing all that down, and I hope you're going to go and take the quiz. I want to talk about the fact that, okay, you're an actress, you get the 2 clients from the tax organizer. What were you doing mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually to begin to build this to what it is today, where you can be on 30 television shows and a TED, what were you doing? What was the process for you?
Flow, baby, all flow. I am like, I'm not, so I'm an organizer, and my industry generally is known as being very pragmatic and logical. I am the 2% that is not that. I operate solely based on my intuition. I will take the jobs that feel right to me. I will create the things, like when I wrote my book, it was just because one day Spirit like tapped me on the shoulder and was like, it's time. And I was like, and so it is. And I do whatever I feel in my heart and soul is the most important thing. And that has never steered me wrong. And so, I mean, I would write a horrible book on, like how to build a business, but I might write a great book on following intuition and spirit. Like right before COVID hit, I remember like 6 months before COVID hit, I got the intuition that I was like, oh, I'm supposed to leave California, where I'd been living for 20 years, sell almost everything, and launch all of my business online. I did all of those things, left California. 30 days later, COVID hit.
Wow.
So I trust my intuition. it's sometimes very difficult to hold still, especially as an entrepreneur. I know you all know it can be really challenging because there's a lot of things that don't make sense, or we're in a world that's moving at the speed of light. And so we're having to learn constantly. So I just find that me checking in, me meditating every day, me checking in with spirit, source, universal energy, and acting from that is the most important thing that I do.
Yeah. So really becoming friends with your inner knowing
Yeah.
and your intuitive knowing for me is at the top of the priority list,
Yes.
because it will guide you in ways that will make no sense. I'm sure you weren't going, well, this is a great idea to pack up everything and leave where I'm living.
No,
Right.
and everybody fights you on it. Like, Star,
Right.
why are you leaving? I lived in Carmel. They're like, why are you leaving one of the most beautiful places in the world? Like, why are you doing this? I mean, you get so much pushback from people. And I'm so grateful that my connection to my intuition is so strong that that is stronger than anyone's interference. Like,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I'm just,
Because it's not linear.
no,
It's not always going to be linear. So,
no.
um, it's one of the reasons why I think spiritual practice and a commitment to that part of you is so important. Tell me, how do people find you?
Yeah. So I will say, I will acknowledge first and foremost that this is a very scary journey to start on with somebody new, right? I'm a stranger for your listeners. They don't know me from Adam. And I'm going to say that I get that. So what they can do is they can go to starhansen.com. If they want to get some free resources from me, they can go to starhansen.com/podcast. And on there, they can get a free copy of my new book that's called Why the F Am I Still Not Organized? And that goes into like the deep levels of why clutter is sticking around. It goes into how clutter is helping you, how you can set yourself free, how to tap into your own inner knowing. So that book is, for as cheeky as this as the title is, it's very deep and soulful. So they can go on there and get that. And then that way they have a taste of whether or not it feels good to work with me. And then they also get some wins before they jump into the circle with me. Because again, I acknowledge that this is like open heart surgery. You're doing open heart surgery of your heart through your house. And I want to be really kind and gentle with people, because that doesn't tend to be the point of view in our world
Mhm.
around clutter. And so they can find me there, and I would be honored to have them come and join us in any of our magical organizing activities.
That's so great. Okay. Anybody out there who's feeling like they have any kind of issue with clutter, listen to the invitation. So I asked the same last question of everybody on my show. This show is called Women Awakening. What do you think is the most important thing about women awakening on the planet at this time?
I think the most important thing about women awakening on the planet right now is our ability to be creators, right? Whether or not you've ever had children, we as women, we are built to create and be creative and create life and create love. It's just a part of our innate being. And the more powerful that we are, the more that love gets amplified. And I see so many women struggling with imposter syndrome, or feeling overwhelmed, or feeling inadequate. And please, if you're feeling that, know that you are honored, right? I struggle with my own version of that myself, right? We all have trauma we're figuring out and trying to rewire ourselves from. But please, for the love of all that is holy, know that you are spectacular. Like, you are brilliant, and we need your light. We need your creativity. We need your love. And standing in your power amplifies that. And we want that beautiful you shining throughout the world, helping to uplift all of us.
That is exquisite. Star, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your wisdom and your commitment and your passion. Really honored to know you.
Thank you, Cynthia. I'm really, really honored to know you and have time with you today. And your work is absolutely breathtaking. Thank you.
Thank you. So, ladies, you heard what Star said. Listen, you are a co-creator with the divine, with the universe. You are here for a reason. You came because your unique abilities are needed. And so, whatever you need to do, to step into your power. Now is the time. And I love what she said, increments, small increments. You don't have to do a quantum leap. Just step into your power, bring your light, bring your love, because the world is waiting for you. We need you. You're here because the universe needed to move as you on this planet. I'm so grateful to get to be with you every week. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you soon.